Okay, we are going to start, then we can continue listening to the music at the end. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we are going to talk about Journey Atlas or Journey Portfolio or how to categorize your journeys. This is a very trendy topic, and I saw our customers asking more and more on how they can organize the journey. So that's why we decided to have this lesson. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Anna. I'm a customer experience specialist here at Cemantica, and with me is Blerta. She's a customer success manager also at Cemantica. And then during the session, she will do a live demo on how this Journey Atlas or Journey Portfolio looks like in a platform like Cemantica. You have any questions, please feel free to share it in the chat, and we will cover them as we go. First of all, we are going to start with some fundamentals, best practices about a journey portfolio. Then Blerta will do this live demo. Then I will share some learnings, some recommendations about how to move forward, how to start creating your journey portfolio and journey atlas. And then, as I mentioned before, you have the chat, you have the Q&A session, and then at the end of the session of the lesson, we will have some minutes in order to go over your questions and try to answer most of them. Without further delay, let's start with the fundamentals. And of course, let's start defining what a journey atlas is. In this case, we took the definition provided by Forrester. At the end of the day, the Journey Atlas or Journey Portfolio is a catalog of your journeys. This is a strategic tool that will help you to organize. It's a methodology to organize your journeys, to have a better view of all the inventory of your journeys. Okay, so it's as simple as this. Why do you want to create this Journey Atlas or Journey Portfolio? Because it will help you, first of all, to get focused. You will get all the different journeys that you have in the organization in a structured way. And this will help you to run a prioritization on which journeys, personas you need to focus your experience designs effort. So this is a holistic perspective, aligning all the customer goals with the business goals that you have in the organization. Some customers decide to start in the journey management approach. They decide to start by mapping the journey atlas, then have this big map of maps, and then start the prioritization. Or some organizations decide to start mapping, creating like the well-known journey maps with the pain points, opportunities, and so on. And then once they have a list of journeys, they start to build the journey atlas. There is no right and wrong. It depends on what are your goals in your organization. In order to better explain the concept of journey atlas, during this session, we created this fake Meridian Blue Financial Bank. So we are going to focus on the banking industry. So in front of us, we have this Meridian Blue Financial Bank. This is located in Netherlands with a strong digital presence in European Union. They have an approach, a mission to be the human first digital bank. They want to distinguish from the competitors, and they focus specifically on educate their customers. So this is their approach in the financial space. And we will use this Meridian Blue Financial as an example during all our lesson. So when we talk about organize the journey in the Journey Atlas, if we take a look at the Meridian Blue Financial, let's think about the potential journeys of their customers. They can have different journeys. For example, when the customers want to buy a home, when they become a customer, what is the journey that they have, what is the experience that they want to provide, when they want to grow the wealth. There are other journeys thinking about the small business area, or if an individual is planning for retirement. And then you have many other journeys. For example, if you want to reset the banking PNA, if you want to order and activate it, your debit card, or if you lost your credit card. As you can see, there are many journeys for many customer types in different areas of the banking. How can we put order in all these potential journeys and know where should we focus on? This is why we have the Journey Atlas or Journey Portfolio. So let's start our lesson thinking or explaining the Journey Portfolio structure. So first of all, as you can see here, we are going to talk about the Journey Portfolio framework. So the recommendation is to start by mapping the life cycle stages. This is what we call normally in the best practices, the level 0 journeys. So normally you start by thinking about your customers and mapping the customer life cycle. Then once you have the life cycle, you start mapping the steps, what the customer is doing in every step of the journey. This framework will help you to start ideating or uncovering the different macro journeys and micro journeys. Macro journeys are also called level 1 and micro journeys level 2. Okay, just for you to be familiar if you start reading or researching about this topic. Let me focus now on macro journeys and micro journeys. Wait a minute. Okay. When we talk about macro journeys or level 1 journeys, we are thinking about the major objective of our customers. This is also linked to the jobs to be done, what the customer wants to do, what are their objectives in their life, what they are trying to achieve. Then you can also think about the milestones that you have in these major journeys, and all of them are called macro journeys, the high-level journeys. For example, in our banking, we have as an example of major objective, for example, buying a home, and one milestone in the process or in the journey of buying a home is getting a mortgage. Then once we have the macro journeys, we can go one level below and focus on micro journeys. And sometimes you call it level 2, or even you can go deeper and call it level 3, level 4, and so on. And this is more focused on tasks. What are the customers trying to achieve? These are the tasks, the specific actions that they are going to do, normally in a major objective or in a milestone. For example, apply for a mortgage. This is a specific task that they want to do. Or subtask, use a mortgage calculator to calculate your maximum mortgage. As you can see, this is a hierarchy, and you can build this hierarchy, this understanding, starting from the top down, starting from, as I mentioned before in the structure, the life cycle of the customers, mapping the steps, and then start listing the macro journeys and then the micro journeys. Keeping in mind that this is covering these objectives. Let's continue with this example because I think it's quite interesting, and continue talking about the hierarchy of journeys and our example of I want to buy my first home. As I mentioned before, this is my jobs to be done for the customer. So if we map this, I want to buy my first home as a macro journey, we know the customer normally start by exploring the market, calculating what is affordable for him or his family. Then he needs to get a formal approval from the bank. Then he starts finding the home and negotiating the price. Then he needs to submit and gather all the legal and financial documents for the final mortgage. And then he finally close all finds the funds and receive the keys of his home and start enjoying the home. And then, of course, you need to continue making the monthly payments and managing the home insurance. Okay, this is how a level 1 journey looks like. But as I mentioned before, in this journey, we can focus on one specific step and create another macro journey for a milestone in this specific journey. This is why we are talking about a hierarchy. We start with a level 1, and then we focus on one stage to map here the pre-mortgage approval journey. And here we have different steps, of course. First of all, take a look at the customer credit score, then deciding on the delivery, ask perhaps for consultation, uploading the documents, reviewing the terms, receive the decision. So all these steps are part of the I get a mortgage pre-approval. But we can go even one step below and create one level 2 journey, focus specifically on the document upload. And then we are going to create a specific journey for this stage of the journey. Okay? So you need to select the document type, capture the image, configure submit, status tracking, and so on. What is important to understand is that you don't need to map everything. Okay? The idea of the journey atlas is to take a look at all the different journeys and the hierarchy of journeys, but you can create the journeys without starting to mapping them. You want to have the inventory of your journeys in order then to decide what are the ones that you are going to map. Okay? Then when you map macro journeys, okay, as they are high-level journeys, normally they help you identify or validate the big initiatives of projects that needs to be implemented in your organization. So if you want to focus on the big pains, on the big opportunities for improvements, the recommendation is to focus on mapping a macro journey. But then if you really know that there is a key challenging area in a task inside the organization, for example, uploading the document. You know that in customer support, you have many tickets about uploading the documents, not easy, the application is stuck, and so on. Perhaps it does make sense to create a micro journey help you in this specific task. The more focused you are, the more focused you are in the area and mapping subtask or task, the more you will identify quick wins or actions in order to move forward and solve a specific customer problem. Then on top of this, there is another concept, which are the touch point journeys. This makes a lot of sense, for example, when you are implementing a digital transformation. So some customers, for example, they want to go omnichannel. But before going omnichannel, you need to ensure that all the channels are working properly. So perhaps it does make sense to create a touchpoint journey, which means a journey focused on one specific channel. For example, the journey of the app or the website of the contact center. Sometimes instead they call it user experience instead of customer experience, but we do see a need in order to create these channel journeys to improve specific channels that you have within your organization. Or for example, if you're going to deploy a new channel, it will be worth it to create some journeys in order to ensure that the experience that you are going to provide with this channel is the one that you wanted to provide. On top of this hierarchy, level 1 journeys, life cycle, macro journeys, micro journeys. On top of that, in a company, there could be many journey portfolios, okay? And this is linked to our recommendation on keeping your journey portfolio simple. Do not pretend to take a bank like this one that we have in front of us and start mapping all the different journeys that you have in a map, because you will never end and you are going to get crazy. So the idea is to create different journey portfolios. Then Blerta will show you in our demo. So think about your company and think about how many journey portfolios you can have. And here we provide for you some examples where you can have several journey portfolios. For example, if you have several brands under the same hood, it will be that you have a company and the company have several brands in order to provide different services or services for different targets. So perhaps it does make sense to create a journey per brand. Or, for example, your company is serving different types of industry. We are working, for example, with a customer in the retail business that they are providing retail products, but also they are providing financial services in order to finance their products. Okay, so in that case, they created the retail journey portfolio and then the financial journey portfolio. And at some point, both journey portfolios are connected because this will help you to visualize the opportunities for cross-selling in this example that I mentioned before. Then it could be that you want to distinguish journey portfolio depending on the type of customers. If we are in the banking space, perhaps you want to create a journey portfolio for the end consumers, or a journey portfolio, for example, for SMB companies, or for public sector that has a different approach, different experience, even different life cycle, everything different, okay? Or different geographies that differ how they provide the services. You have here different examples. But the recommendation is to keep it simple. Think about what is your most common journey portfolio or the area of the business that you want to focus on, and start with that. How can you start? How can I identify all the different journeys? What is the approach? Don't worry, because we have approved methodology that we are running with our customers in order to help give you some guidance on how to tackle this specific process. The first step that we recommend is to understand the big picture. Okay, so your company or the company you are mapping for, do they have different regions, different countries, different brands? What is their strategy? Do they want to create a core group of journeys and then map the synergies between the different markets? Do they want to differentiate completely? Do they have different business lines, different services, different business customer types? This first step will help you to identify the different journey portfolios that you can have in the organization. Once you have this idea of how many journey portfolios, let's define the scope of the first journey portfolio or atlas that you want to start mapping. Okay, I'm going to focus on this specific business area of this specific brand for this specific customer. Once you have this scope, I'm going to map one journey portfolio. For that journey portfolio, I'm going to start defining the journey framework. What is the customer life cycle? Okay, in this journey portfolio, what are the different steps? And then I will start listing the macro journeys and then the micro journeys. In order to start doing this list, there is also methodology. For example, you can start thinking about the customer types that you have in the organization, the objective of the journey that you have, and then even if you want to focus on a specific channel. So these are different tools, different methodologies in order to help you have this list and this hierarchy of journeys. Okay? Very good. So now I'm going to let Blerta show us how all this journey portfolio looks like in a tool like Cemantica.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so in Cemantica, you can find journey portfolios and start creating them here on the journey portfolio menu on the left side. And like Anna mentioned, you can create many different journey portfolios. We will continue down the banking line just as she has today. So you can create many different portfolios for your business. It's a good way to keep like everything like streamlined. So you don't get like overwhelmed with all of your maps. It's like really good to like segmentize them. So like you see here, we have like asset management journey portfolio, corporate banking, global banking journey portfolio, investment banking. So we have like many of them. So let's go into one portfolio here so you can have like a better view. So this is how a journey portfolio, this is retail banking journey portfolio. This is how it looks in Cemantica on the platform. And here at the top, we have the phases. So we have engage, purchase, grow. You can show this, or if you want to minimize it, you can. Then underneath we have the life cycle stages, and this is like we have our awareness and discovery, consideration, evaluation, acquisition, onboarding, servicing and engagement, loyalty and expansion. So this is the entire life cycle here. You can choose to, maybe if you want to have a description, you can add a description lane, and you can include, sort of elaborate more into what is going on into each of these different stages of the life cycle. And then underneath, we continue in the portfolio and we add the steps. So what are the different steps that the customer is going through, or the different steps that are happening into each of these life cycle stages? So like you see here, we have need identification, external search for under awareness and discovery. We have like feature comparison and self-service validation under the consideration and evaluation stage, for example. Then moving on to, this is where we start like mapping our macro journeys and then micro journeys. So we have our macro journey lane here. This is where you can create a journey, and you can add your macro journey, which is, like Anna mentioned, it's a milestone or like a bigger action. So we have discovering the bank, for example, under awareness and discovery. So this is a macro journey here, and we can include a status of the journey. We can include a priority. We can kind of see if this is like a current stage or a future stage journey. We can tag it as well, and also add accountability. So what group or what department maybe is working on this journey or is accountable for this specific journey. We can add that accountability here as well and see that in here. You can also add a description for your journey here as well. Okay. Then we have our micro journeys here underneath, and we can see again here, as with the macro journeys, we can immediately see the status here. We can see priority as well. So it's like a nice thing. As soon as you see everything in one view. The micro journeys, again, as Anna mentioned, these are tasks, so like smaller journeys, so going even more granular level down. And we have our social media advertisement, for example, is a micro journey here under the awareness and discovery stage. We have comparing banks as a micro journey under consideration and evaluation stage here. And the same thing, clicking into this journey. You can also assign a priority, a state here, tagging also accountability as well for micro journeys. So this is one of the views that you have. But here in Cemantica, you can view your journey portfolios two different ways. So this is one of the views you have here in lane form. And then we also have our tree hierarchy. So for the tree hierarchy, if you want to see it in a tree hierarchy, you want to add and attach your journeys under each stage like you see here. So to do that, you can just click on the stage here and then just link your journey, okay? And then it will give you a view like so. So this is a hierarchy view, like a tree view. We have our journey here, our bigger journey here, and then all of the macro journeys that we have attached into the respective stages. So this is also like a nice way to kind of like see everything. And obviously, if you are mapping, going even further into your micro journeys, then you can attach those to your macro journeys as well and see everything trickle down into this tree view as well. So it's a nice way to see everything. And of course, you can export this view as well and share it externally, okay? All right, so let me also go here underneath. Another thing you can do with your journey portfolio is you can add some analytics. So you can include like this little break here and include a sentiment chart as well. And you will see you can include a feelings lane, so you can kind of see the perceived sentiment of the customers, and also some feedback here. You can include that as well and see how that looks within the sentiment chart, how it moves the sentiment chart. So you can kind of see how you are doing at certain stages of this journey portfolio. Like you see here, it's pretty normal, nothing crazy. Maybe this stage needs some attention, the acquisition stage. So maybe you want to work, within those journeys to improve that specific stage. And we can also add KPIs. So if you are measuring KPIs internally, if you have KPIs internally for these specific journeys, then you can, of course, include them in your journey portfolio. And in Cemantica here, you can upload files for your KPIs. You can connect, you can do an integration. You can also add these manually as well. You can also include a financial impact and visualize this, various different ways. So it gives you an understanding of where you are in terms of meeting your targets. And of course, you can go further here and add tagging and accountability, and align, also attach with specific, touch points or systems as well, where you're pulling these KPIs from. So to give you a more complete view of your journey portfolios. Okay, so another thing I wanted to mention is that there was one way of doing journey portfolio by life cycle stages, but another way is to actually do it by like a business area. So like you see here, this is another journey portfolio of retail banking journey portfolio, but it is business areas here. So we have like account management, loan management, investment, mortgage management, money management, and credit card services. And we have the journeys here underneath each of these business areas, okay? So this is like a second way to do it. We do recommend the first way of doing a journey portfolio, just because it's just like more, it's like a better way of viewing everything that is going on, and a bit better way of mapping it rather than this. It's easier to understand and comprehend as well. More detailed, so it's a lot. So we do recommend that, but this is also another way of creating a journey portfolio in Cemantica. All right, Anna, back to you.
Good. Thank you very much, Blerta. Okay. Let me share now. This one. Okay. Very good. So how can I start? How can you start creating your journey portfolio? So as you probably know, in Cemantica, we provide different services. Of course, the Cemantica platform that Blerta already showed you, but we also provide learning courses, public courses, but also in-house courses, and our consulting services focus on the different areas of different workshops that we can do for you. So we have a specific Journey Atlas workshop that can help you build with you hands-on workshop in order to map with you your framework of the journey, your macro journeys, your micro journeys, and then on top of that, to help you prioritize those journeys. So if you are interested into knowing more about this workshop, please write us at info@cemantica.com. So let's go now to the questions. As far as I see, there is one question in the chat. They are asking about prioritization journeys. Yes, of course. Journey Atlas. One of the purpose of the Journey Atlas is to help you do prioritization of journeys. So we have experience. We have like quadrants. For example, focus on the mainstream journeys, challenging journeys, the VIP journeys, the journeys that are generating more revenue, of the, let's say, focus journeys. So depending on that, depending with the criteria, and we can provide you with some templates, with some criteria for prioritization, and we can do it with you. You can get the top journeys that your team needs to start mapping. Okay, very good. I think we are at the end. So thank you very much for your attention. If you want to know more, as I mentioned, write to info@cemantica.com, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you.
Thank you.